Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the May meeting of the Macomb Park District Board of Commissioners. The first item on the agenda, as always, is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I'd like to move that the agenda be approved.
A second, please.
I'd like to second.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, please. Aye. Consideration of an action on the minutes. We have two sets of minutes today. We will take them in chronological order. The first set is from the regular April meeting, that is 4/18. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the 4/18 board meeting as published. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The 4/18-17 minutes stand approved. The second set of minutes is from the special meeting of April 27th. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Has been moved to approve the 4/27 special meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I second.
Has been seconded. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Okay. Then both sets of minutes for the 4/18 regular and the 4/27 special meetings stand approved. Bills and transfers, monthly financial statements.
Basically, with the budget, the way that it's been set up, everything looks in line with the budget. There's nothing that we're really going over on the budget. I did notice that the payroll had been better than expected. I understand it's because of the special rec, probably. The position that's in there is not filled at this point. You're staffing projects and such with part-time people that you already have, so that will be better than what we would expect. The ball 4 is up and running. It is generating some interest, and I'm assuming that the revenues and such will get towards budget. But everything else was within line or lower than what the budget was, so it looks really good. I did want to finally say one other thing that was listed about the property tax bills that went out last week. Hopefully sometime in June, middle of June, we should be generating some revenue from that.
Are there any questions for Commissioner Ham? Then do you want to move approval of the bills and transfers?
I would like to move that the bills and transfers be approved.
Is there a second?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the bills and transfers and the monthly financial statements. A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hemingway,
Aye.
Commissioner Pettigrew,
Aye.
Commissioner Horrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Ham.
Aye.
Then the bills and transfers, monthly financial statements stand approved. We have no one for open public presentations. And that leads us to the next item, at which point we have to say farewell to Commissioner Horrell, whose term is ending this evening. And Steve, you haven't been with it all that long, although sometimes I'm sure it felt like it was for you. So I personally want to thank you for your assistance as we worked our way, particularly through the swimming pool thing. Your counsel was invaluable, and I think lended itself to the resolution of the issue in a way satisfactory to all. So thank you. Appreciate that. And you know, you never know, we may be back in touch or something like that. Okay.
All right.
So Steve, thank you very much on behalf of the board. on down.
Yes.
Now, those people watching on television, if we could get a sort of a wide-angle shot of the board here from our ace technician back there, you'll discover that the wide angle isn't that wide.
Yes.
We now have 3 members on the board. Former Commissioner Sowers, who announced his resignation last month. I saw him briefly last week. He showed up at a function to remind me that how much older I am than him. And so I had a chance to talk with him, and he's relocating almost as we speak. And then, as people just saw, Commissioner Horrell's term ended. This is an issue for us, as I'm sure everybody knows. And the director and I have had a fair number of conversations about this and are moving to try to identify and then recruit potential members, which the whole board, all 3 of us,
Yes.
will have to make decisions on with that. We have a fair amount of latitude in how we proceed with this, but the exact same requirements as existed for us when we ran for office. Citizen of Macomb, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Both of you, I invite you to join in the process wholeheartedly.
We're looking for 2 individuals,
Yes.
basically, to
yes,
fulfill
Yeah,
some terms.
yeah. And the terms would run for 2 years, so that it would be in the April 2019 general election. It's nonpartisan, but the terms would last to that point. And then both of those people would then run, but they would run for the unexpired 2 years. And we can get into those details in another time. But it's going to be very important for all of us to be here, because under the law, although 3 people are a quorum, the law requires affirmative votes by 3 commissioners to pass anything, everything, which includes from the minutes to the budget. So Russ, you've already pressed our luck a little bit recently. Be careful when you cross streets, and all the rest of it, so. All right, with all of that said, we have a ceremony to go through. Commissioner Ham and I are now beginning a new term, and through various machinations and the magic of the internet and everything, we found what we needed. So, Commissioner Ham, if you would join me in front of the, so that the secretary can do her duty.
It's kind of lonely up here.
If you want to sit closer to me, we don't have to be so far away. Just kidding. Okay. Ready? Before entering upon the duties of the Office of Commissioner of the Macomb Park District, I state your name. Swear upon my solemn oath to well and faithfully discharge the duties of such office. Congratulations. Okay.
One thing that's probably a prerequisite for serving on this board is a sense of humor. Uh, Only because almost everybody up here seems to have one. We move now to the main act of the evening.
I'll tell you, this has been an exciting evening here. And I'm the boring part, I think.
Well, Patrick Stout, once made a comment years ago that he thought that these meetings were sometimes the best entertainment on Channel 15.
Knowing Patrick, I could see him saying that.
Yeah, he was emphasizing the entertainment
Yes,
side of
exactly.
things.
Okay. Well, I'll get right to it, and I always say it's take me 10 minutes or less. Hopefully, I'll, in the turbo. Like I said, my name is Greg Butler. I see this would be the second year I've done it as just myself as a sole proprietor. Before it was Bruce Butler, so we've done it since, I think, 95 in a row. It's been a long time. So I've been doing this a long time. And so really the format hasn't changed much now for several years. I did tweak a few words here and there, but nothing material. So what we're going to do, you got your audit and I got the little 5-year analysis. We'll put that 5-year analysis aside. I always come back to at the end. It's more of a thing to have for future. So I'm just going to touch on a few things. I will not touch any the whole audit because it's 35 pages. Again, you can ask questions as we go. And like I always say, if you're looking at this down the road, and you can contact me directly or funnel a question through Chris or Rachel or whatever. I've been doing this a lot of years, and a lot of times board members have just called me, which is perfectly fine. Okay, go to page 1. I know it sounds like every page, but we're not. That's really why you hire me, to give an opinion on your financials. You guys are cash basis. And so again, nice clean opinion, mean everything's fairly presented, no irregularities, et cetera. Okay, so that's pages 1 and 2. I'm going to step forward to page 6. And really, I'll just point this page out, these next 2 pages. And again, it's just a little comparative of 15 and 16. So, really what you guys care about from a cash position, you went from 2.1 million to 1.1. Well, that's mostly because of all the athletic complex, and we're going to talk about that with a lot of I've got your capital outlay and stuff, what we spent. So this is just a nice little comparison of where we went from point A to B. Page 7, same thing. It's a 2-year of your income statement, profit and loss. You can call it your statement of activities, whatever. So it kind of shows the income. And again, the 5-year analysis has these exact numbers on it on page 7, which I will talk to you a little more in depth, not a lot. Charges for services, I point out rental, admissions, ball floor, and pool. That's what's in there, most of that, because that's the recreation side. And, so anyway, you can kind of see where your bottom line is. You guys about almost 1.4 million of income. Most of it comes from property tax and replacement tax and again, 100,000 from the rental, admissions, et cetera. And then there's some of the expenses. Really, they're all pretty steady except for the capital outlay. And then again, that's a lot of I got it right here. Expenses to, like Lavadier Construction, that was 1.1, almost 1.2 million. McClure Engineering was about 32,000. Then there was some pool repairs, were like 32,000, and then I think like McDonough Power, the cooperative, that was 8,400. So that's right there, 1.2 million. So again, what you had is retainage money from before your big bond issue last year, and then you expended it. So I think I know you've got another phase with the lights, et cetera, so, we'll see where that all plays out next year, but again, you have your bond issue and stuff. So bottom line is, right now you're sitting at 12/31 about $1.1 million in the bank. So I know some of that's obligated for some future things, but, that's pretty good. We're going to skip forward to page 12. And the only reason I point that out is this is more the detail, because I know this gets cumbersome. This stuff pretty much ties directly to what Chris gives you each month. I do tweak it a little bit for a few things. But, you have a general fund, recreation fund, The debt services, the bonds, and that's just in and out paying that, and then the capital projects where, a lot of well, it's exactly what it is. And the other governmental funds, I point out, that's the ACORN, police protection, and paving and lighting. So really, when you look at down before there were some transfers, the general fund increased its position about 46,000. Rec fund basically broke even. And then obviously the capital projects, you spend a lot of your retainage money to make that minus 1.7. And then in the other three funds, all positive. So really overall, it was a good, positive year. All right, we'll skip forward to page 21. The only reason I point that out is, again, it might be helpful, well, 21 and 22, but 21, it just kind of shows the bond issue. So if you're ever like, gosh, what's the interest rate? It's right here. It's a 6.5% interest rate you guys are going to pay, that $565 that you took in. And then the next page, again, this what I like about it with the general obligation, you're down to about 4 years left on the one GO debt certificate, so that's great, down to $475,000, so 4 more payments through 2020. And then the GO debt certificate right below that, that was the new one last year for the athletic complex. Again, right now, you're just paying interest till 2021. But again, why I point this out is if you're ever like, what is our debt pay act? You can go right to your audit report and see it here on 21 and 22, okay? And then really lastly, on 28, pages 28 through the final 34, again, this is another, you guys do a good job with your budgeting, all you have for years. I mean, again, you can see where, I'm 28, positive, there's some pluses and minuses, there always is, but I like to look in total, so you can see where, hey, you're a positive 15,000 in the general fund, 29, another positive 19,000 in the recreation. You actually were positive in the pool and the ball 4. I mean, you didn't, which I know the pool closed early, et cetera. So, that's to be expected. And then on 31, again, special rec, again, positive. So all positive. Overall, you were under budget by 64,000 in the recreation fund. Again, I'm going by this quick, but again, what's nice about your audit report, if you're ever, hey, what do we usually spend on this stuff? Go right to your audit report and you can see it, And let's see, go to page, 32. I think maybe I mentioned that. So again, they're positive too, even because, you budget all this capital outlay and you were under budget a little bit by about 300,000 with the park improvements, et cetera. And then lastly, on 34, I just point that out because there's your ACORN police and paving. So that kind of shows the ins and outs there. And again, they all more or less, police protection went up a little bit, paving and lighting. You transferred some money out of there, okay. So you were positive pretty much in all the funds, and then you moved some money around. And then lastly, on 35, very positive, on ACORN police protection. The 5-year comparison, again, nothing really hugely glares out. What I didn't like about it is you can say, okay, where do we get our revenue from? And you can kind of see it paid pretty steady. Back in 12, it was 1.4 million. And again, some of that was what you were getting 75,000 from Lakeview in there. So now you don't have that expense as well. So that's mostly the material difference. About 1.5 for 3 years, and you're still at 1.4. And you can see where the property taxes have kind of gone up. Ball 4 has kind of steadily kind of been up and down a little bit. Obviously, the pool, revenue-wise, was way down because you closed early, and then the 75. And again, the expenses are decently similar. I mean, actually, like general government, they've went down, but I think some of that's because you have Lakeview and some other things.
You mean Spring
that?
Lake?
Spring Lake.
Spring Lake? Okay, that's what I meant, I guess. Oh, I said, whatever. Well, okay. And then, and then like I said, on the capital outlay, we kind of, again, I beat that, talking a lot about with the athletic complex, et cetera. So then, again, that's a nice comparative. And at the bottom, I always do the ball 4 and pool. So you can see ball 4 kind of lost money for one of the few years. The last 2, it's made some money. So I don't know. It was just kind of broke even, 302. And then the pool was as usual, minus 10,000, which I know that's a big hot topic. What you guys are. So I don't know how quick I blew through that. Got any questions? I tried to go quick, but again, and thanks to Chris, always awesome to work with. He keeps catching me towards the end of tax season. I just kind of come out there stumbling. But it's kind of nice to get out of the office for a couple days. I did give him the state report. That's been e-filed. It's been accepted. He's got the one for the county. So you should have another fiscal year put behind you. So, any questions?
So real quick, Greg.
Yeah, go
on
ahead,
this,
Russ.
Basically, everything is pretty much even. We go on a budget every year, and then some things come up, and what you're basically projecting in the overview of the audit.
Yep.
Is that, on the most part, everything was operational below what we budgeted.
That's right, about everything.
Except for ball four, if I remember.
Well, no,
Law-
budget-wise, you were fine.
Okay.
I was just, no, really, the only thing that was a little negative was an Acorn, which I know is incredibly immaterial to the overall, and that was like minus 372. Everybody else in total, I was looking, was a positive under what you budgeted, okay? So that's great. Though I think what did we say, ball four, I think I was just saying that it looked like you just pretty much broke even for the year. Well, usually you make a little
But
bit.
we budgeted then for a profit from ball four.
Oh, I'm not sure overall if you did,
Overall,
maybe
if
it's
we
more of
did.
a break even.
Break even.
I'm not
Last
really-
year-
I was just talking
last year
about
we
the
were break even
expenses.
because-
Okay.
So, but again, you keep up the good work, you're doing that, I know, with the athletic complex and all, you guys have always been good about that. So,
I appreciate the way you
Sure.
give the report. No, I'm serious.
I keep thinking every year, can I do something different? I've been doing this and I just can't come up with a better way.
No,
you know?
because it's clear and it's, we got people up here.
And it's a lot of it's in my jargon.
None of us are accountants and I actually, from a management point of view, find that 5-year summary.
That's helpful.
Extremely helpful.
It can be.
actually.
That's why I tell a lot of my boards, I say, it's nice, I mean, and then you can say, hey, what happened here? And then usually you can explain it. It's a nice trend, but sometimes it helps, sometimes not. I could do more years, I could do less, I don't know, I've just picked 5 and stuck with it. I don't have overkill.
That's fine by us, I think.
Okay, cool,
5 works.
Do we have other questions,
yeah.
Mr. Butler?
And again, if you do down the road, no problem, Mike, or funnel them through Chris, whatever, gladly try to be accessible.
All right.
No, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
And for your patience.
Oh, it's
Yes.
fine. I get home in time for the ball game. Watch the finals.
Okay. There actually is no action required of us on this. So I would say study,
Oh,
and we go from there. We have then, and we deliberately delayed to the end, the reports, so that we wouldn't hold up Mr. Butler.
That's all right.
Do we have forms we have to sign for you?
He's got it. For Rachel.
I'll take care of it tomorrow, yeah.
Okay, good. Very brief on the president's report. Director Lentz and I went down to Springfield, I believe it was the 2nd and 3rd of May, the Illinois Association of Park Districts annual legislative conference. And it should be no surprise that it was a packed house this year. A lot of people very curious as to what might be happening. And this is not just about the state budget, but also about any legislation that might affect how we do what we do. And I will say that with a background in political science and having lived in 4 other states, the people in the IAPD are probably the sharpest group I've seen yet for a state association. They're wired in tight in the process. They know what's going on. They have their fingers on it very well, so that when either Peter Murphy, the executive director, or Jason Anselman, who's the chief legislative contact for the association, when they tell you this is what is happening, they don't tell us what's going to happen. They tell us what is happening. And there was one issue that I wanted to share with you. Of course, the session is winding down. May 31st is the end, after which everything requires a special majority. But it is inevitable, at least in the opinion of the IAPD people, that there will be a property tax freeze. The full scope of that freeze is something that will be hashed out as part of any bargains that are made. And it does look like the freeze is likely to take a dollar amount form rather than a rate freeze, which is to say that if, I'm going to just use a number, if we got $1 million for this year out of property tax, then next year we would get another $1 million. That has the effect of ruling out recovering any cost from increased either property values or new property in the community. So even as the EVA would grow, we would not be able to recover that. This is the harshest kind of property tax freeze. And Director Lentz was sitting next to me weeping silently, listening to this. And I think that people need to be aware of this. I guess one other thing I should mention is that Senator Jill Tracy from the Quincy area, who is the state senator who has replaced, well, succeeded, I don't know if anybody's going to replace John Sullivan, but she was on the stage, and it sort of towards the end of the whole thing said, "Where are our Macomb people?" Because she knew we'd been there, but she hadn't been able to make the reception the evening before. And so we waved at her, and she quite nicely made the effort to come around and talk with us. And we will be getting in touch to discuss issues, one of which just might be this property tax thing. So, do you have anything you want to add to that? Or why don't you just go ahead and pick up, there are no questions, if you just want to go ahead and pick up your report.
Sure. Did you want to talk about the pool?
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Communication between the city and the district on the pool issue is really very good. And although we obviously have some differences, I will compliment the city for its taking considerable initiative on this. And it looks at this moment as though the installation of the support for the deteriorated joists is going to cost about $9,700. We have joint caulking and repairing and doing some lamination work for about $6,000. Cleaning, caulking all the joints, I'm going to have to try to,
It's an extra. This is the last number.
okay, so it looks like that's going to go about $5,000,
This is our total.
and that's about 21, is that what I'm reading?
Yep.
And that's the total number, divide in half?
That's the total number between the two entities. Our total number is the 10.5.
Yeah, so 21,158 overall, which is considerably less than it initially appeared. But remember that on the deteriorated joists, these are temporary repairs. So our share thereof will be about 10,000, make it 10,200 roughly. That isn't going to be easy to absorb, but I'm sure
A lot
This-
better than the others.
the staff will find a way. So there's a little breathing easy on that, but again, I will compliment particularly Dean Torreson for making the effort to keep us informed on this. Appreciate it. Do you have any questions on that at all?
Okay.
So, Director Lentz.
I will try to make this very brief. I handed out to everyone a list of events. You received one of these earlier in January. This is a much longer, updated version of what we have going on this year. We have a very enthusiastic staff this year, and we have more staff right now than we do desks because there are so many things going on. We have a couple of fantastic interns, one who's a volunteer intern. It has nothing to do with her studies. She just wanted experience. Working events, we have another intern who is in graphic design. It's our first graphic design intern, so they are both helping us develop our marketing strategies and our events, and so we're very thankful and pleased to have them. We have a new staff. She's been with us for a little bit, but has now taken on the role of community outreach coordinator. So really, again, upping our game and making sure we are doing the most that we can to be engaged in the community. With that comes this 3-page list of events that we have until October. So this week is really our kickoff week to the summer and our summer events. And I am sure everyone's going to need a day off next week after we finish this. But this Thursday, we have our first Randolph Street Rendezvous. Staff were up in trees today, hanging lights. We have, on the 19th, we have our first photo walk out at Lakeview under Natalie Shelley's guidance. On the 20th, we have our first kickoff clay class with Natalie Shelley. We also have the Blues Fest in coordination with New Copperfield's bookstore. And then this Sunday, we have our first nature workshop out at Lakeview, again with Natalie, doing paper making, and that's just in the next 5 days. So I have listed here for everybody all the events we have going on, some of our major partnerships that we have in the community, just so you guys have a visual of the belief that many of the major corporations here in Macomb have in our programs. But to everybody in the audience and who might be watching this, it is going to be a ridiculously busy summer for us, and we're very excited about it. We have our brand new movie screen came in this week. It looks massive. It's the biggest projector I've ever seen in my life. I'm very excited about that. But first movie in the park is coming up on June 9th. Family Day at Ball 4, which is our customer appreciation day at Ball 4. Everything is $1 that day. For those families who have multiple children and just can't afford to take the entire family for $5 a person, everything's $1, so join us that day. The next Randolph Street Rendezvous will be June 15th. Another photo walk. We have Father's Day at Ball 4, where dads mini golf for $1. Or no, it's free. We have several events happening out at Lakeview. And then I can update you on July when we get to the June meeting. So it's a very, very busy summer for us. We're extremely thrilled to have so many community partners who are encouraged and excited. A special shout out to First Bankers Trust and the Macomb Area Convention and Visitors Bureau for being so daring with us yet again and sponsoring our very first Randolph Street Rendezvous series. So they have continually been supportive and trusted our initiative on certain things. So they believe in the music scene here in Macomb, and they want to see these things happen. So we're excited to have them on board. But yeah, we're busy. We're busy. Oh, and Veterans Park has been reseeded a couple weeks back, so everything is coming together quite nicely over there. The last bit of dolomite has been spread. Everything's looking fairly even and laid flat. So there's a few low spots that are holding water that we still need to fill in. Otherwise, it's going to be a fantastic park for the kids to use. So,
Rachel, quick question about Lakeview. I understand there's a labyrinth out there. How's that coming along? And could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah.
out there?
Yeah, we did an installation of a labyrinth last season. We mow a path through the prairie, and so it comes back on its own now. We mow it down just because the grasses get so tall, they fall in on each other. So right now, it's probably nearing 2 feet in height in the grass, but it'll quickly get to its full height. But yeah, we host the nation's largest 7th Circuit Prairie Labyrinth. So we're pretty proud of having that. And KHQA did a great story on it last year. But we do a lot of mental health programming. There's a group in town called the Friends of Lakeview, and they do a lot of mental health programs for a variety of demographics in our community. So they have a website where you can find a bunch of the programs coming up, and they're typically free to the public. So
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
When we did the, this is a comment, not a question. When we did the, our director search, one of the questions that was asked about was about the direction of the district. Actually, for several years prior to this, we'd been moving more toward an event focus rather than the standard repetitive traditional recreation programming. And I will say that in talking to other people around the state, that it seems more and more folks are going that way. And so one of the questions was, is that the way we're going to continue to go? And I take a look at this, and completely in addition to the normal facility operations, the playgrounds, all the rest of it. In May, we have 9 special events listed. In June, 9. In July, 5, and that's not that unusual because we begin to get into some seasonal shifts with people out there.
And it's hot.
And
We
it
try not to do
tends to
rain.
be hot, yes. And then in August, 6, and in September, 5. So I would say that we've been continuing in the event. And if you people want some genuine entertainment, take a lunch, go over, sit down in the offices and watch the inmates. There is more activity over there, people running around, doing things than anything else.
We have a great staff this season. It helps.
There's a lot of energy in that building right now, so it's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
to-
A big shout out though to our maintenance staff because I think Jeff has, well, he didn't really have a choice, but he's really picked up the slack in a lot of areas. I don't think he intended to be riding a forklift up into the trees to hang lights, but he is doing it with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
Unless his smile leaves when I turn around, but that's fine.
Well, I won't tell you about that.
That's
But,
I don't want to know.
and then in conversations with the director, there are some other things coming up that are staff-related that we're going to have to address as part of the mandate kind of thing. But unless somebody has questions for the director, I would gladly entertain a motion to adjourn.
Do we have any, presentation,
No.
discussion of future agenda items?
Not unless you guys want to hear
Not
me.
unless you want to bring it up.
I may want to hear a little bit about Phase 3, just where we're at with that. What's your idea of that? Specifically, I think that's the lighting portion, or is that the 3 new diamonds?
That's the 3 new diamonds.
okay, 3
The
new
lighting-
diamonds.
Lighting is more
Still
like phase
phase 2.
2.5.
Okay, so that's still part of Phase 2 is the
Right.
lighting at the boys' baseball diamonds.
Yeah.
Phase 3 is the adult
Correct.
fields. Okay.
But
So
that's
just-
why some
Just
of
a
the
summary
effort-
sometime to keep us, sometime during the summer.
Some of the information that Mr. Butler had given us on the bond
Right.
pay down
Limitations
becomes
and
very relevant to that.
Had a good conversation about that today, so I'll put some things together for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
I'd
Yeah.
like to move that we close the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. And remember, we all have to vote. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then we stand adjourned, and I appreciate everybody's tolerance of what, behind the scenes, was a very adventurous meeting.
Yeah.